Good? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 7th, Town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen meeting. We'll start off, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, start off with announcements. Not many tonight. We have one board and committee opening, which is the Board of Health. One opening there. And now we have our time for public comment. If anybody has anything they'd like to say. 3 minutes comment. Okay. All right. And then we're on to the Selectmen and Town Manager reports. Do you want to start off, Rosie?
Sure. So I guess the first thing would be, I think everybody received invitations to the new Gordon Conwell President's inauguration on Friday. So that I'm looking forward to an opportunity to meet with him and chat about things. This is probably something for a subsequent meeting to be put on the agenda, but some citizens had asked me about reviving the Christmas tree bonfire, and I spoke with Chief Burnett, who thought that was perfectly okay with him, so I'm wondering if at some point or maybe next meeting, we could put that on the agenda. People that have asked me about it seem pretty excited about it. And then also they suggested that maybe some people would want the bonfire and some people would want to recycle, but it's always been a fun town event, so that's something we could talk about later. So as a member of the Affordable Housing Trust, I went to the Housing Production Plan presentation last week. There were some citizens there. I was frankly surprised that there weren't more. And I found it some interesting things that the consultant told us about. First thing that surprised me is there aren't a whole lot of people who have certified housing production plans, and that's something I'd like to find out more about. Our goal, as always, as it was on our last 5-year plan, is still 14 units a year, and people were concerned that that's fairly unrealistic. And then the consultant pointed out that the housing production plan is not mandatory, it's a goal, and there are no penalties if we don't reach it. I mean, certainly on the other side, there are risks, but I think it's important to realize that this is a goal for the town and not an absolute requirement. Let's see. So I was also on the waste reduction task force. There was a meeting last week, and there were about 15 people there. Most of the people were indeed in favor of going to trash every other week because of the money saved first and foremost, and secondly because of the environmental impact of not putting composting into our solid trash. And there was one young mom there who was probably representative of a lot of young families who are running in all directions and just feel like one more thing puts them over the edge and they're unable to cope with it. And I certainly understand that. And at the beginning, she said she was against it. And then once we talked about it, and some members of the waste reduction committee volunteered to go to her house and educate her and help her to figure out how the best way would be to start being more diligent about it. She actually was willing to give it a try. So I thought that was a great bit of public relations and really volunteers really going into the community and helping to make a concrete difference. So I guess that's probably all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Sean, how about you?
I don't have too much tonight, just a short report from the Hamilton Historic District Commission, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the varsity on the agenda. I'll kind of fill in what the Historic District Commission said, or at least the conversation with Chris Davis when he came from varsity to talk to them. But really the only thing that I would put in there was there's a proposed gutter replacement at 601 Bay Road in the Historic District with Tom Collins, the owner, and his wife, fairly new to town. Welcome to the town. They're fixing up their home, and they want to replace their kind of mixed gutter on the house with copper. So they'll come back soon with some pictures and stuff for approval, probably the October 29th meeting. And the other board is the rec board, and we're going to hear from Sean tonight, so I'll hold my comments till then.
Great, thank you.
I have a very short contribution, too. I was at the Affordable Housing Task Force meeting, too, and it was very interesting. There seems to be momentum toward making changes, but I think there's a lot we're going to have to talk about on the future agendas. But I thought it was a really good meeting, and I think a lot of people were interested in doing the right things, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't have much myself. The Town Hall Building Committee is working hard in preparation for our meeting coming up. They've put together a very nice kind of position paper that they're trying to objectively explain to everyone that's going to be going in the mail with the warrant, to explain to everybody the pros and cons of options A and B, so hopefully people will be as educated as possible about the two options and can make a good decision. I attended the community house, had their harvest dinner on Saturday night, where they awarded the Joanne Patton Community Service Award to Susanna Colorado Mansfield, and I took two things away from that: how valuable the community house is to our communities, both of them, Hamilton and Wenham, and the important work they're doing and some of the new exciting programs that they have. And then just recognizing Susanna for all she's done for the town, for our open spaces and trails. I mean, from Patton Park, we have access to over 450 miles of trails that people can use for horseback riding, running, biking, kind of a variety of different activities, outside activities. So it was a really nice event, and obviously very well deserved on behalf of Susanna. So that was nice, and that was it. How about you, Joe?
I got a couple things here that we'll go through quickly. Just want to let people know that the next e-waste pickup day is scheduled for the same day as special town meeting, October 19th, from 8 a.m. till noon, so residents can drop off their electronics waste on their way to STM in the DPW yard. There is information on the town website for the list of prices to dispose of certain electronic types of trash. Finance Director Marissa Batista and I will be meeting with school administration officials and the Wenham Town Administrator and Finance Director on Wednesday of this week. We're basically just a lot of new people, a lot of new faces, including both Anthony and Patty in Wenham, and Superintendent Kuchenberger and Vinny in the schools. So we just kind of have a get to know everybody meeting and talk about the way we'll work together through the budget process that's going to be coming up. And so we'll report back to the board and the Finance Committee after we have that meeting. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Planning Committee is meeting with its consultant again this week, also on Wednesday, actually. The MVP planning workshop has been tentatively scheduled for Thursday, October 24th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There is another date if for some reason that doesn't work out, but at this point, it looks like that will be the date for our MVP planning workshop, which is kind of the first step towards having an approved MVP plan with the state. That's a required all-day workshop. We'll be reaching far and wide to try and get good participation from the community and stakeholders in the community. This will help us assess what our vulnerability to climate change and other natural hazards is, and help us kind of prioritize the order in which we might want to try to deal with those with some assistance from the state. So once you have the plan, you're eligible to apply for grant funding to try to implement some of the strategies for for dealing with those vulnerabilities. So we're hopeful that that all goes well and that we get a lot of participation on the 24th. Want to say, I want to actually remind people again to please go to the town website or go to www.flashvote.com/HamiltonMA and sign up to be on a part of our virtual surveys.
Should we reach out to people? Solicit them to come maybe, or is it just volunteer thing? I'm just, since it's kind of an all-day workshop thing, it may be tough for some people to attend. I'm wondering
The
if,
MVP, yeah, the
I mean, I
steering
don't mean
committee-
like to cherry pick people, but just
the planning
do
committee.
a blanket invite to
Right.
people to spread the word, kind of.
I'll talk to the planning committee after their meeting Monday, after their meeting on Wednesday. They've got a list of invitees already. These events are supposed to try to draw a lot of participation if we can, but we do recognize that it being an all-day workshop, it's hard to get people to participate. So we've definitely got some people, some organizations, groups in town that we've targeted, and after Wednesday's meeting, rather, I should say, I'll have a little better idea how much further we need to go.
Good.
Discussions with Manchester and Rockport toward a regional human resources agreement are progressing. We should be finalizing a job description that can be posted and advertised sometime this week or early next week, and the draft intermunicipal agreement for the three communities to sign is going to be heading out to KP Law as well this week. So the hope is that they'll review it for all three communities, because they actually are the representation for all three communities, and get it back to us pretty quickly so that we can get it on one of your agendas, probably the first meeting in November. And the first week or so of the pilot closure of Sharon Road has gone pretty well. In fact, the police received a nice letter of thanks from some of the neighbors down there. The rest of the report will be on the website for people to take a look at. And that's all I have.
Great, all right, thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment that I take the train with a couple of the Sharon Road folks, and they're just grinning ear to ear. They're thrilled. Their kids are out all playing. There are no cars flying by, so I'm really happy for them.
May I ask, you didn't mention the Beauport ambulance?
Yep, I can do that if you want. I don't always read the
That's
whole
okay.
thing.
Yep, that's all right. No, that's all right.
Yeah, it's, so, as you know, we signed a new 3-year contract with Beauport Ambulance, and that took effect July 1st. And recently, in the last 6 weeks or so, there've been a couple of instances where there've been long response times. Chief Brunette, Chief Stevens, and I met with the president of Beauport Ambulance last week, and by Thursday night, he had reached out to us by email and indicated that going forward, he's going to treat the Hamilton service as if it's a dedicated ambulance service, which it isn't. That provides us an additional layer. It's, each of the 3 instances that we've had with longer response times than usual, you can identify reasons for it, but at the end of the day, John has committed to making Hamilton's resident safety a priority, as he had done in the past. It's interesting, we've had this recent spate of bad luck, but prior to that, what I was able to get from Chief Brunette and Chief Stevens as we prepared for the meeting with John was that there had only been 2 or 3 instances in the previous 6 years where wait times have been that long. So that we had 3 in 6 weeks was really concerning, and we expressed our concern about that. And he has dedicated himself to making sure that doesn't continue to happen. So I included it for your edification and for folks to know that Beauport's working with us positively. So.
Great. All right, thank you, Joe. Okay, under the consent agenda, we have a few things here. Reappointment of constables from town clerk, Clarence Trepanier and Richard Flynn. Appoint Forester Tim Clark as Board of Registrar from the town clerk. Approve minutes of August 12th BOS meeting and approve minutes of the September 9th BOS meeting.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
In favor, but I can add my question after.
Okay, aye.
Does this round out our Board of Registrars?
Yes, actually, I did have an opportunity to talk to Annika McKenna today, and she's going to be coming up to Town Hall tomorrow. Told me that she had just been unsure about what her appointment status was, so we talked about it briefly, and she said she is still willing and able and
Perfect.
happy to serve. So
Good.
she'll come in and introduce herself to Sharon tomorrow and sign, so we'll have a complete slate of registrars with the appointment Tim tonight.
And then, and we had talked previously about kind of defining some roles and responsibilities of the registrars and stuff like that. Have we done any of that with the clerk?
I'm going to work with the clerk because she knows how to do that better than I. She's
Yeah.
been doing it a while. So, but she'll definitely give them a briefing on what's.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because that's been a kind of a fuzzy issue in the past. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on it, so that when we do have volunteers, they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Perfect. That's it.
All right. Okay, on to the agenda. The first is an update from Sean Timmons about the Recreation and Summer Parks programs. Welcome, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Good.
So looks like you guys have a pretty lengthy agenda, so I'll try not to take up too much time. But just really wanted to briefly talk about a few things this summer. You know, the pool, obviously, and our camp program. And then I think, you know, there was a question about the high school athletic complex and the, you know, what's kind of been going on with that. So I'd be happy to provide an update to the best of my knowledge at the end as well on that. So just starting off with the pool, this year we had we sold 361 total memberships, and our memberships come in various types: family, adult, youth, senior, caregiver, veteran. So that 361 memberships signifies or represents a 25% increase from last summer from our membership sales. And, you know, that's really not surprising to us, you know, from that standpoint. This year, we decided to decrease the price of our memberships and increase the price of our drop-ins to see if we could drive more membership sales, more sales up front, which did happen. So even though we had a 25% increase in the total amount of memberships, it really only amounted into a $2,000 you know, revenue surplus from last year. So, you know, I think it is important, though, that, you know, we drive our memberships, and that was one way when we looked at other surrounding communities, you know, how they drove their memberships was lowering the price a little bit on the memberships and increasing the price on the drop-in. So that's how we kind of operated this summer. You know, on the flip side, we had a slight decrease in our drop-ins, but actually generated a little more revenue with our drop-ins because of the price increase. So all in all, between our memberships and our drop-ins, the sale of those items, we had a 6% increase from last year. Participation, though, in attendance is a different story. We had over 8,000 individual visits to the pool this summer, which represented a 21% increase in attendance from last summer. So we're super excited about that. You know, obviously the weather has a lot to do with it, and we had a really hot July, but we were super busy this year. That's on average, we averaged over 100 open swim attendees a day. So we were over 100 a day this year, which is great, which is the highest that we've ever been. So, you know, we're happy about that. And as we look forward and kind of into the future about how we want to tailor our memberships and our drop-ins, you know, it's great to have, you know, each year we kind of keep on adding a little more information that we can look back on and make adjustments where need be. Our swim team, which is always really popular, had 73 participants on it this year. So we're the largest in the league. And this year, our team came in third place at the All-Star meet. So the kiddos were really excited and, you know, a super dedicated bunch. We don't, you know, obviously because we want to have the pool available to the public in our camp as much as possible. The swim team practices start at, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning. So those kids are dedicated. So you drive by at 7 o'clock in the morning, you see kids freezing, swimming in the pool. Those are those guys. So they do a great job, and our coaches as well. We did have a few new items this year at the pool. One, we were open on July 4th. Hugely successful. I think Sean actually was there on the 4th of July. We had 183 people come on the 4th of July, which by far is the most that we've ever had on an individual day. With Rosemary's help, we did a free senior swim, so we're looking to build on that next year. This year we did it on Sunday mornings, so we'll look at our schedule and see if there's ways we can add or at least promote better or more wide. This year we're doing it as we were going along, But I think if we can get the word out beforehand, hopefully we can increase membership on that.
Sean, I'll just interrupt for a sec.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of them, it was their church hour.
Yeah.
So, but thank you very much
Yeah.
for doing that. It was very well received by the seniors.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I mean, we're always open to kind of looking at our schedule and figuring different things out or different ways, that the whole community can utilize the pool. We did special events this year. We did a Make Your Own Sunday Day. We had a Pirates and Princesses Day where we had a DJ. So those were really well attended. So, looking to build and add upon to those. We sold slush this year, which was a big hit. We actually sold, believe it or not, over 1,200 slush this year, which is just crazy to think about. Because we had to buy all the equipment and everything that goes with that, it actually was break even this year for us with the slush. But as we move forward, and as we sell, it's just a little bit of added revenue for
Could be our
us.
cash cow.
Yeah, so a lot of slush, a lot of blue vanilla or blue raspberry.
Yeah.
So it was fun though. It was a fun thing to to order the slush, get it in, what's popular, what's not. So our lifeguards had a fun time with that. And then just kind of overall picture, as far as the budget, we closed out this past fiscal year 19, with just about $3,500 in surplus. And as we look into the future for fiscal year 20, we think we're in pretty decent shape. The one thing that I will say, we were open 9 more days this year than we were last. That's about an extra $7,000 or so. So it is about $800 a day to operate the pool. And most of it is driven by staffing. Speaking of staffing, minimum wage continues to go up. So this past year it was $12. Next year it's going to be $12.75. And in 3 years, minimum wage is actually going to be $15. So unfortunately, there really, when you look at it, there's really no way around a potential price increase as we go forward for both our camp and our pool. Over about 70% of our cost for camp and pool are our staffing costs. And, with things that we can't control with minimum wage, there's really no way around, raising the price. So we'll look at that. But I think from a financial standpoint, we're in pretty decent shape.
Do we, Sean, if I can interrupt for
Yeah.
a second? With the revolving fund, is that where the monies for the staffing comes from, or is that a different?
No, so from the revolving fund, correct. So we have 2 revolving
Is there any way
funds.
I know we can carry so much in it. Is there any way to build up a little nest egg for that increase in the minimum wage coming up?
So that, I think, with the pool revolving fund right now, because we've kind of had a surplus over the years, if we just break even, we have about $20,000 in it. But, the thing is, if you just, the prices need to increase anyways. We're not
Right,
going to be able
everything's
to
going
carry,
up.
we're not going to
Right.
be able to keep on carrying the increase by keeping our prices the same. So, we were very careful. We haven't, our prices didn't rise at all. And matter of fact, as I mentioned, they went down for our youth and individual memberships. So, unfortunately, I think when we look at our memberships,
We'll have to raise as wages go
as
up.
the wages go up. From 12, it's going to be 75 cents a year from now until 2023 when it's $15 an hour. So it was $8 an hour when I first started. So it just tells you how much, how much it's increased. So that's, so I don't know if anyone has any questions on the
Did you get
pool.
it open, through Labor Day?
So we were open through Labor Day this year, yeah. So, I think when we look at it and we go forward, we weren't super busy on the days that the kids were in school. So, in this town, the kids go to school before Labor Day. So those days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they were off. So those 2 or 3 days, we only had about 20 people visit the pool. Now, the weather wasn't great, but as the weekend hit, the numbers did increase. So as we look, next year is a really tricky summer. It's leap year. So the kids go back to school on a Monday, and Labor Day is September 7th next year. So it is really tricky. So we'll figure it out. But I think the intention is to be open through Labor Day. It may just be that, when the kids go back to school, maybe we're just a weekend thing or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday type deal. Just because, when we are open, we do want to make sure that we have patrons there. As I mentioned, just being open those 9 days was an extra $7,000, which we have to make up somewhere.
Right.
I don't know if anyone had any other questions on the pool specifically.
Yeah, just so I understand correctly, so are you saying the pool operation itself on its own had a net profit, if you will, of
Yep.
$3,500?
Yeah, ending fiscal year 19. So, it's a little tricky because we end the fiscal year and then the summer comes up. And then, so it gives us the ability to really reflect on what happened the previous summer and then organize our pricing as we go forward, because a majority of the money that we collect to operate the pool next summer
Yeah.
is actually going to be in March, April, May, and those months. Yeah.
Okay, good.
But as I mentioned, if we just broke even, it's about $20,000 that we have in the revolving fund currently. But we do like to be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 in surplus. That's kind of the goal to shoot for.
Okay.
Which we've been lucky probably to get that. But I do think at this point we're probably going to have to look to raise prices
Yeah.
just to make sure that we're hitting those numbers.
Got it. Great.
Do you do any report like this for Wenham?
I did last year. I did, yeah.
Joint
So.
FinCom.
Yeah, and then the FinCom, I always do a report to the FinCom. So at the FinCom, I always give them a report of the revolving funds, correct? Yep. So that's the pool. So our summer camp, another hugely successful summer. This particular summer, we had 1,740 independent registrations, which is a 30% increase from last year. So we had, extensive wait lists last year on for a lot of our programming. So we added an additional group, or 2 groups, I should say. And actually going forward, we're looking to add even more groups and have each individual grade be a group. So all in all, we averaged about 187 kids a day in the summer. So we think with some creative, organization, we could probably get over 200. That's probably the limit. A lot of it we do have to weigh if it rains in our indoor space. We can't, we would love to take everybody, but if it rains, we can only have space to fit as many, in an indoor location as we can. So we think we can probably get to 200 pretty comfortably, and then that would allow us to kind of spread out our groups a little bit. The nice thing about the camp is 2016 was the last summer that we did not have a pool. So this summer, the summer of 2019, with our registrations, it's 171% increase in our participation from the last summer without the pool. So obviously the pool, in the location at the park and a lot of the improvements at the park, play a big deal into our summer camp. But again, as with the pool, as we look at minimum wage rising, we're most certainly going to have to look at a small price increase with the camp program.
Which is a heck of a deal as it is.
Yeah. So that, we don't want to overcharge people just to overcharge people. We want to make sure that what they're paying is paying for their program. So we do look carefully at that and, take that into consideration.
Is there any way to track the participants of the camp? Like how many are Hamilton Wenham residents versus?
So I can, I thought you might have asked that question for the pool. So I did look at it for the pool before I came here.
Yeah.
So for the pool memberships, it was 70% Hamilton, 30% Wenham for the pool.
Okay.
I'm not sure about, I can do the camp though.
Okay,
I'll
I was just
email you.
curious.
Yeah.
Because the pool is restricted to just Hamilton Wenham, right?
The pool is restricted to just Hamilton Wenham.
Unless you're a guest.
Yeah, unless you're a guest.
Yeah.
We open our camp registrations to just Hamilton and Wenham residents
Oh,
all the way up through pretty much the beginning of June. So any of our non-residents, we don't have a lot, I guess I
Okay.
should say. Yeah, we
Got it.
probably have non-Hamilton, non-Wenham residents. Maybe we have a handful.
okay.
But I can get the breakdown.
No, I
for
was
you.
just curious, yeah.
You know what, with all this, it always somehow ends up being, 65, 35,
Really?
70,
Yeah.
30, it's
Yeah.
funny, but it usually does, yeah.
Can I throw a random thought that just popped in my
Yeah.
head? A handful of years ago, when we were figuring out what to do with the pool, I did a walkthrough for some conscom work going on up at the Military Observatory up on Sagamore. And those folks up there, all the guys that work in that facility in the service, had asked about the pool and a possible membership if they could come because they're in Hamilton and that kind of thing. And I never really followed up on it.
Yeah.
So would you mind with
Yeah.
me offline following
Yeah,
up on that and see if we can
absolutely.
include them into that kind of a thing? I think it'd be great to kind of
Yeah.
let them be able to come down and use the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. The more the merrier. So that's the summer camp, and really, another successful summer for us. So we're really happy with the way that that the pool in our summer camp has kind of come together. It's a stressful summer. It's a long summer, but it's worth it. The kids have a great time, so we're really proud of it.
And Sean pretty much lives at the pool during the summer.
Not this year, not as much.
This
as
year, not
last
as much,
year.
but
This year, not
it's
as
running
much as last
smoother now.
And then really just to hit briefly on the turf field, it seems that, maybe with some new school leadership, I know that there's been some turnover with the school committee, that, they're kicking that can down the road again. I haven't really, I went to one meeting just to kind of hear what their thoughts were. Right now, it looks as though the school committee has given a charge to their capital committee to kind of work with the turf group on defining a scope of the project. I know the turf group has just filed or is about to file for a nonprofit status to do some fundraising. So I think until they get that paperwork filed and filled out, and then working with the school's capital group to kind of formulate the project and what it's going to look like. A lot of things have changed since 2012 or 2013 when we first looked at it. The tennis team is playing away, so do tennis courts now come, into play on the campus since they're playing at, the Ipswich Country Club. The track is, really, on its last legs. So that's something that they're going to have to probably look at anyways. So I think there's a lot of moving parts now that have kind of occurred over the last 5 or 6 years since we tried to get this going, that have kind of come into play as well. So I think trying to figure all that out is kind of where that group is now. But, be happy to update, as soon as I hear.
And what's the total cost of the turf field and the track, do you know?
The turf field with the track with lights, you're probably, probably between $3.5 and $4 million.
Yeah, I
I
think
think that's kind of the general. Yeah.
A lot of it's going to depend on the surface conditions of the land that you want to build on and things as well. The town of Swampscott did theirs all in for a little south of $4 million. The town of Winthrop at the same time virtually did theirs at a cost of almost $9 million. Because,
I think our original quote, all
because
the
the
bells and
sections,
whistles,
so-
was around
so-
9. And that
Yeah,
was
that was the
turf,
that was
the
both
track,
fields,
the
yeah.
tennis,
Yeah.
the field behind the
Right.
practice
So
fields.
I think, and I get that's kind of the idea, right? Is this group, I guess the charge of this group is to look at that big picture and then get it down to something that is, can work for everyone, I guess. But I would say just on its own, most things that are being built now, you'd probably be
Yeah,
between
that-
3.5 and 4.
Yeah.
I wonder what Pingree spent, but that turf field's been great for the community too. We've had a lot of events over it, so I think people have seen how well that turf field works over at Pingree. So
Right. Yeah, and I don't believe they have a track elsewhere, right? Did they do their track? I can't remember, but they may have just been a turf field and their track may be somewhere else. But certainly with the track and the lights, that's probably what we're looking at.
It's encouraging to hear that the turf group, they're looking into fundraising now.
Yeah, so that's the idea, right? I think with the nonprofit, obviously there's a mechanism to fundraise. That's always really tricky. But I think too, they're looking at coming to an understanding with the schools that to make sure that there's equitable use among all the parties,
Right.
whether that be the school. Now the majority of the use will be the school, obviously, but when the school's not having it in use, that it has some time for youth sports in general. And then just as a kind of an aside for me, I think having the school athletes play on the school campus makes things a lot cleaner and a lot easier when we look at field maintenance and different types of things. I think the tennis court is probably a good example where you have the schools using a facility on town property, and then when that needs maintenance, how does that,
Right.
How do we figure out how to fund it, or who's responsible for it? By keeping things on the school campus and in the school budget, the funding mechanism is already in place, so it makes it a little bit easier for us to kind of wrap our head around things.
Right, and there's another hurdle with the school committee is some of their policy as far as sponsorship and signage. A lot of times when you have a big donor, like Institute for Savings is paid a lot of money in a lot of other schools for saying Institute for Savings somewhere on the facility. And right now, I think our school policy is they allow no signage or anything like that. And so it's going to be tough to get some of these bigger donors to give the money without some type of a recognition, a plaque, a sign, or something like that, so.
Yes, so
it-
they've either changed that policy or are
They were,
about to.
yeah,
or
they were
looking
talking
into
about it a
yeah.
couple years ago and reviewing it as far as their policies. I don't know how far they got with it.
Yeah.
Because they had a thing with the playground over at Bucher with some signage that they let go, but they wanted to review their policy. So that may be a sticking point at some venture when we get moving forward on it, hopefully.
It seems like other communities get traction going when they raise the money up front privately and basically offer a check. I don't know if that's how it happened in Swampscott, Joe, but I know in Marblehead, they raised the money up front, all independent of the school system, so it wasn't a burden of the taxpayers. It was a private
Right.
private
Yeah, so if
fundraiser.
that's the, and I'm not, 100% sure how they plan on, kind of attacking it. I think the big thing for us to get that design work done originally was, the question with the playing lights, would the playing lights be permitted? Obviously, that's a big part of the project. So we wanted to make sure we had that answer before
Right.
the fundraising began. We do have that answer, so hopefully that will help, kickstart. I can certainly tell you that that we're, the playing fields are struggling both on town property and at the schools as well. Where they're being stressed. I mean, we have a lot of people playing athletic sports in town, both at the high school level and the youth level, so they are being stressed.
Is our usage about the same, Sean, as it has
So
been?
we've added, right, so since the master plan was originally done, we've added obviously flag football, which is a big user. They've added softball to the high school, which is also another use. So we've actually, we've probably added use. JV girls lacrosse now has a JV team, which they didn't before. So I think, their numbers are going up, not down.
Yeah. And I think we're actually, as a town, in kind of a good spot for the turf, hopefully when and if it happens, that we have $500,000 already basically earmarked for a turf field. So that will help us out exponentially with relieving the burden on the taxpayers if we do have to invest some monies into it.
Right.
So one question I have is, we talk about all these other entities using the field and all this stress on the field. It's my understanding that the flag football program, which is a very popular program, is not a Hamilton Wenham entity. Is that true?
I mean, meaning the players or?
No, I mean flag football entity itself. It's not a community endeavor, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I
Not
mean,
sure?
they're a youth sport just like any other. I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, the folks that run it are Hamilton residents or
Mm-hmm.
Wenham residents.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't my statement, though. The entity itself is not a community entity. So that when we talk about our fields being stressed, I think we need to point out the difference between Hamilton Wenham entities using the fields and out-of-town people who just come in and use it as their home base.
Okay.
So,
So you mean, I guess I'm somewhat confused. on
flag
your- So you're
foot-
saying like New England flag football,
that's
which a lot
not
of other towns have
right.
flag football in their towns that's associated
Right.
with NEF, the organization.
Right. The
You're saying isn't a
organization-
Hamilton strictly organization.
The organization is not it's not a community entity. And so I want to make sure when we talk about our fields being stressed, that it's being stressed by our community endeavors and not just an outside entity who comes in and uses our field. And of course, our kids are involved in it, but it's an outside entity using our playing fields, who are probably profiting from it and not our town. So those are things that I think we should look at when we think about the necessity of a $4 million turf field.
Thank you.
All right,
And
great.
what about in the basket? You also
Everyone's
in the
looking at each
basketball hoop also. You didn't talk about the basketball hoop. You got that thing going up
Yeah,
now.
basketball hoops are great.
Basketball hoop was
Yeah.
was so that actually helped out. So this summer, you'd be amazed at how much use. I mean, every time
It
you drive
was
by,
being used as I drove by tonight. It was being used. So
And actually, we were working with youth basketball as well this summer, and they started their own kind of summer league too. So so that helped out, as well. So they were able to take advantage of it too. So that was CPA money well spent there
Right.
too.
yep,
And every
thanks.
so often, little kids get to use it.
Done.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Sean,
lot,
very much.
Sean. Thanks for
you.
coming.
Russ Tanzer, 100 Orton's Road. Rosie, I have a question for you
Yes.
regarding the summer, Sunday summer swim programs for seniors.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know if I might fall into that category. What are the age parameters for that?
I think it's 60, but I was told they don't check IDs.
They don't check your ID, Russ.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There.
Card.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would it be okay if we had the discussion of the special town meeting moderator? Can we move that up a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. We
For
have
your rules,
that.
you have to vote on the motion to take something out of order.
Yep.
So you wanna
Shall I
that
make a
main
motion then that we,
Well, also, Courtney, are you here for 15 Walnut? So you're both here? So maybe, I think
Why don't we
that'll
do
be
that first?
relatively quick.
Let's-
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we'll move up
Yep.
okay.
shall I make a motion, or is that not necessary?
Why don't you do it after our next item?
Let's,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're here for change of manager at 15 Walnut, discussion and vote.
Good evening. Jill Mann here on behalf of Indigo Corp., the owner and operator of 15 Walnut Street here. This evening is Caitlin Doherty, the proposed new manager of the facility. We are just normal administrative process with regard to the entity. So Caitlin has been with the restaurant for about 2 years, and she's been promoted. And they would love for her to be the licensed manager on the liquor license for 15 Walnut.
Congratulations. Are you ready for the responsibility?
It's been 4.5 years there.
You're ready.
Okay, 2 is the
Okay.
assistant manager.
Excellent.
I mean, in part of that, hi, how are you? We did submit all of the information for Katie.
Yep,
you know,
Corey and everything.
Yeah, her resume, the details of her application, and so we would ask that this board authorize her appointment.
May I make a motion?
Sure.
That we change the manager at 15 Walnut.
We approve the change of manager.
Approve the change of, thank you.
Yep.
Manager at 15 Walnut. And now-
Second.
To Caitlin Doherty,
Yep.
right? Okay, excellent.
I second
Seconded?
that.
You second
Second.
that? Okay, any further discussion?
No, well, actually, I just have a quick question. We need to approve you because you will be administering the liquor license, is that it? And you've
The
been
responsible
doing
party
that,
as a
it
manager.
sounds like,
Yeah.
right? You've been doing that as an assistant manager or helping to do that?
Monica's name was on it prior to myself. She was the GM that was there most recent, so I will be taking over as that position.
Okay. So, and whatever requirements or over serving people and things like that, you're well versed on
Yep,
that?
I'm
Your
tip
tips training and all that
certified,
good
yeah.
stuff, yep.
Okay.
The Massachusetts Fire Department makes you do an online training as well
Yep.
because of the Rhode Island stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, Rosie, we get a yearly report of any incidences or drunk driving and anything like that that's been reported back of either 15 Walnut, the weather vane, et cetera, and you've had nothing, so congratulations.
Okay.
And all of the Serenity Group restaurants, we have an internal mechanism for checking to make sure that everybody is tip certified. So we actually do our own review, our own training to make sure that there's never an issue with somebody who isn't, who would not understand how to avoid over-serving.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, I'm good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Caitlin. Okay. So yes, I will entertain a motion now, Darcy, that'd be great.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to discuss, to move the discussion of special town meeting with moderator, where we developed the script, to move it up to the next agenda item.
Okay. Is that seconded by anybody?
Second.
Second, all right. Any further discussion?
Does it affect anybody in the audience negatively? Does it impact
I
anybody?
don't,
Okay,
I don't think so.
okay, all right,
All right, okay.
okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And Joe is, Bill, Joe is running right now, making copies of the
I was just
warrant
gonna
because
say,
they're
I don't
not
have
in the
a copy
packet.
in my packet.
Yeah. So, I don't know, in the meantime, if you have any general observations you wanted to make
Come on
about
up,
the
Bill.
meeting, or?
I'll have my copy of town meeting time.
You're all set
so
then. You're all set. You're sleeping with it under your pillow and.
I've read most of it. So, no, I have, Jeff Mielek has agreed to be the assistant,
I was just gonna ask
town
who's gonna
moderator,
replace you
so
as our,
he'll be manning
order.
the cafeteria, the overflow. I've started to reach out to get some folks to be tellers, and that's about it.
how
So
many
you-
tellers do we need, Bill? Is it 6 or something like
I
that?
think
Is that
there's
about the
usually about
average?
6, so.
Bill, you've been in the cafeteria in years past. Is that utilized by, as intended, or?
It is. You don't generally get huge crowds, but I think it's good to have it. You know, we were encouraging people to come to town meeting, including people who have young kids, and so they can go in there with the kids, and also that auditorium can get kind of stuffy. And so I think it's good to have, even if you just have a handful, it's
Okay.
good to have an overflow place. I would like to, I mean, I'm not, well, my intention, every position I've had in town government is I try to run a crisp meeting, you know, and get things moving. And I'd like to do that, you know, with town meeting, because the more you can move things along, I think the better attendance we'll get. I mean, this time around, it's my first time, I'm not gonna plan any major changes, but I'd like to, down the road, if we're gonna have the overflow, which I think we should have a better signaling method than me meeting Jeff in
Right.
the
Back
middle
and forth.
every vote. I'd also like to get, I think, you know, there are time limits, and I'll certainly, you know, let people know when they've reached their limit, but I think it would be good, again, to have like a digital clock, so that,
Right, so
you
people
know,
can
it's
actually
not-
see it.
So that, you know, it's not the moderator so much saying, you know, you've gone over, because that you get, oh, he gave him much more time,
Right.
that sort of thing, so.
More
I
transparent
think
or
there are
visible.
things, and I think the town should, a lot of towns now are going to electronic,
The clicker, the voting machine
you know,
thingy, yeah.
which, you know, could certainly move things along. You know, there's obviously a cost issue there, but
I thought we had pretty much decided that we were going to do that. Maybe I'm wrong.
We looked at it, but we didn't,
We never made a
we're
final
gonna try
decision.
and borrow it from
We're-
another
Yeah, we're gonna
town.
try to borrow it from somebody else
And
or
we
rent one.
sort of, the lesson
See.
went so smoothly, kind of, that we
Yeah.
sort of, it didn't become a big lesson learned, but I think you're right. I think we should sort of see how it goes and put it back, because it is a possibility
Yeah, I
to
think
borrow
the-
one from another town that has one, that doesn't have their town meeting the same day.
Yeah.
We thought about trying to do it with Wenham, but the problem is their meeting is like
It's the
right
same day,
after
right,
ours,
right,
so.
Ours runs long and.
Yeah, it's hard to share it with them, but it is something we had on a previous agendas, but we should take it back up again.
Yeah, and I think
well, I'll
when-
be going to the annual meeting of the moderators on November 1st in Sturbridge, and that's obviously after this meeting, but, you know, I'm sure that'll come up, and maybe they'll get,
To think
I think
about
that,
it for
I think the
ATM.
cost, it was what, it was 10 to 15,000 depending on what.
I don't think it was that much. I think it was like half of that, but yeah.
Hire to.
It was
sort
half of that, but you could rent,
borrow.
but you can rent it too.
You could rent
Right,
it too.
right.
Yeah.
And that might be a good alternative to sort of trying it out and
Yeah.
just seeing how it works. But I think
And that kind of thing would help with the overflow issue, right, as well, because if they've got the the counters in there, you don't have to do that back and forth thing. And I think the overflow is important, even if it's not utilized as much as we want it to be. But we have had some big meetings in the past where the overflow has been crucial for it.
Right.
Or we've had
But
a
it would
meeting at
also-
Winthrop or somewhere else where
Right.
we've had space constraints.
It would also save time and just in the actual counting, you wouldn't
Right.
need people.
We would
one,
need
two,
we would need
three.
our tellers to count
So,
everything, right?
So that, it might be helpful for
Right.
that.
I don't think we had a counting the
I don't
last
know, the
town
last
meeting.
No.
That's why I went, like, there was a one
Handful of
before, we
years
had
at town
counted about
meeting, I've
4 or
kind of-
5 votes, but last time we didn't have to count anything,
It
so.
gets so time consuming.
does
so
now.
That's such a good idea.
We've kind of tracked the amount of time it takes to vote, and if it's counted, it's an average of 5 minutes plus each time we do a count on it. I have to look back through my notes, but it adds about 40 minutes or so to the meeting with the counting. It adds up.
And it's also, you're assured of accuracy as well, which is
Yes.
always a good thing, so.
Right, and
just-
it does make it a little bit, I mean, everyone wants to hold their voter card up and stuff, but it does make it a little more anonymous. So if someone's worried about how somebody else is voting, it's
It's
pretty
more
secret
like
how you're voting.
It's more
So
like a
it-
free vote, and, you know,
Right.
and, I mean,
You're not worried about
free
your
choice
upsetting your
vote.
neighbor or whatever if you're
Right.
voting
Right,
against them.
exactly, so.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would advocate for that, and you can see what you find out about the moderators meeting. Maybe
Yeah.
people feel differently, but it'll be good to investigate. Thanks.
All
Get
right.
you a clock. I'll get you a clock before the time meeting.
Okay, great.
That I can manage.
Okay, great.
So I guess the idea would be tonight to just go through each article quickly and talk about who's going to present. And any other questions that come up? Does that make sense?
Just want to point out that Lauren is here from KP Law. She's going to be with us on special town meeting as well. And she'll be helping us draft the script after we get through all this exercise tonight and we have all our notes. I have an example of the script from last year's, so you can use that to, we'll just make suitable changes and make it a little easier on you rather than start. Oh, good, even better, all right.
This is pretty much what we're mailing out because we've got everything on the back of it, right, for the
well,
mailing.
yeah, we did mail this out, I'm sorry, we did send this to the printers. It will be back in our hands by Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
And our intention is to mail it. It is also including Appendix A, Appendix B, the FinCom Book of Recommendations, and
Good.
the THBC one-pager.
Good.
It's a two-sided one-pager. So it's a larger mailing than we've sent out in the past, but this provides town meeting members with all the information that they'll need to come to town meeting armed and ready to vote, so.
And can we just, and it's kind of a hindsight thing at the moment here, since we've got the thing about National Honor Society on here and the child care, could we also put in a thing about the breakfast on this, or when it goes out, people know it on the thing, if
Right now.
we are having it?
It's at the
That's what I
printers.
said, in hindsight, right? In hindsight, it's 2020, right?
In the future, we can do that,
In
yeah,
the future, could we
absolutely.
do that? Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, because I was saying hindsight, because I'm looking at it now and you're like, well, it's already at the printer, so. But I think this is important about the childcare in the front and then also the breakfast there because it gets people in to socialize a little bit and talk about the issues, so. All right.
Excellent. All right.
Does anybody else still need a warrant? I think Bill came with his own, but if anybody needs one, I have one extra one. No? Duke, you good?
Okay, so we'll also identify which items can go under the consent motion
Yep.
tonight, too. Okay. This first one, 2-1, might be a candidate for that?
No, only because that requires a 9/10.
That's a 9/10, yeah.
Oh, okay.
vote, so,
Gotcha.
Mr. Margaret,
Yeah.
if it is unanimous, then it's fine. You don't have to count. So.
but it wouldn't be appropriate for the consent agreement, I don't, well,
I guess the question is, if nobody wants to take it off, then you're having a unanimous vote on it. It's a unanimous agreement that it should be dealt with like that. I think moderators differ in how they choose to deal with it.
We're allowed to put in the consent motion, but it may
Right.
create
If
a
it's
second
held, we'll have
step.
If it's held, and if somebody doesn't think that it's gonna get 9/10,
Right, then, but it's allowed to be in the consent.
How much is it? What, $6,000?
total.
It's up to you. It's up to
yeah,
you, Mr. Bill,
no,
right?
that's okay. Well, this time around, I think, I mean, I don't want to change too much, so, we've always voted on it separately,
Okay.
so.
That's
Okay.
fine.
I know Bruce Ramsey won't be there, but, he'll hear about it,
Yeah.
so let's keep that separate. if
All
you
right.
will, So,
And who would present this one?
Did we?
I mean, would be somebody from the finance committee,
Yeah.
probably.
Mr. Wanger, would you care to comment on any of these? If FinCom has discussed any of these at all in a want to present
Come up to the
anything?
front row, David.
School, I prefer. If I might share
Yeah.
space, we'll be happy to move as to that item, prior year bills. If 2.2, the education appropriation reduction, is not part of the consent, we'd be happy to do that one. Likewise, 2.3, budget adjustments. We'd like the opportunity, Mr. Moderator, to comment on those articles dealing with the town hall building project, and perhaps with the Habitat for Humanity, that's 2.5, 2.6, 2.7. So,
I didn't think those certainly wouldn't be.
Yeah.
but the comment will be within the time limits. As you know, I obey all time limits.
Oh, yes, it will.
You're excellent at it, David, I might say.
And the, again, if not part of the consent, 3.1 and 3.3 might seem like appropriate for FinCom. And again, we might wish to comment on 3.2, Highland. So, those are my suggestions. I do, if I may, quickly discuss the teller number. We began to look at the electronic possibility after a town meeting where some 80 votes, either people did not vote or they did and they weren't noticed. And it was a meaningful item in terms of amending the budget to capture the school. We sought to keep it separate, and there was an amendment to that. So while we're, and I think FinCom will be supportive of expenditures for the electronic system, but in the interim, we might respectfully suggest more than 6 tellers, just as insurance, that there's no suspicion of missed votes.
Okay, well, I'm already trying to round up. We'll see how many friends I have left in town. So.
The only other comment that I had was, perhaps the only one, if there's to be an opening remark opportunity by respective chairs, BOS, FinCom, we would participate. If you determine there's not to be that at STM, that's fine also.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David. So, 2-1, that'll be FinCom.
2-2 onto the consent agenda?
I think that can be on consent agenda.
Yeah, so nobody from the schools are planning on making any presentation on it?
No, I
so.
don't think so.
If I may, and I apologize, it might be informative for the voters to appreciate, for us to underscore the reason why that money is suddenly available.
Right, and I'm remembering when you say that, David, at our last meeting, I think I had made a comment that we should keep this one possibly separate so that we can say that this is the OPEB issue that we have with the schools, and this is basically, they're not pulling their weight with OPEB, to put it
Yeah,
bluntly.
it's because of the Wenham vote, not because of our
the
vote.
Wenham vote,
You
right,
wanna-
it's not
You don't
the-
necessarily want to characterize it as being the school department's
Right.
fault. The school department tried to pass the
Right.
OPEB issue.
Right.
And it failed at.
Right, it was a
town
Wenham
meeting,
vote,
so-
and that was due to their budget constraints.
Right. And again, so not casting blame.
Right.
Wenham just felt that they couldn't afford it at that time.
Better worded, thank you.
Okay, so that's not going to be consent,
Okay.
All right.
but it'll be briskly dealt with.
Right, briskly dealt with.
Yes. Who would like to present
I
that?
think David said FinCom
David
would-
said he was going to talk to
David,
it.
FinCom?
He volunteered twice, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So, FinCom.
So FinCom, the FinCom will be meeting on the 16th, and David will get me the names of the people to be presenting the articles for the FinCom, so.
Okay.
All right. On to 2-3, budget
Well, this-
adjustments.
I would think this could probably go under consent agenda unless you
Yeah.
think that it's.
Yeah,
gonna
I
be-
agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. 2-4,
Can I interrupt for just a second?
yeah, of course.
If one of these items are held, like 2-3, for instance, would it be appropriate to have FinCom ready to make a comment on it? Just so you could say that you're meeting, David, in case some of these items on the consent are held, and it's a FinCom item that you'd like to comment on, that would be their time to explain it? Okay, perfect. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, no problem. Good suggestion. Let's see, 2-4, water improvements.
Tim was going to speak to this?
I don't know, excuse me. I don't think it'll be controversial, but it's a big number.
Right.
So,
Correct.
It's
Right,
good
and
to
it'll-
have an
People will want some
explanation.
explanation, so if we try to include it in the consent agenda, it'll probably
Yeah.
get held.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it should be in consent. I think it's a quick explanation on, it's basically a housekeeping kind of maneuver here, right? Where we're,
We could have
Tim?
either Tim present it or
Makes sense.
town council.
Which one would we prefer?
Tim does a pretty good job
Two
explaining
dash
this.
four.
2.4, 2-4.
Have Tim do it?
Yeah, he knows he knows what streets it is and what
Okay.
phase it is and how much is
Yeah.
left and.
I could explain the municipal finance aspects of it.
Okay,
Okay. All right.
so we'll put Tim in the hot seat for that one.
Okay, Article 2-5, Community Preservation Habitat for Humanity.
And this would be Jay Butler to present these.
Yep.
I wonder, as a member of the AHT, would it be appropriate for me to talk about it at all, or you look shocked?
And just specifically 2-5 you're talking about, Rosie?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
can, you don't need to, but you're.
I don't need to.
I think maybe what I would recommend, Rosie, is you reach out to Jay
Okay.
and see if you could be a part of that, if you'd like to.
Well,
Yeah.
Or,
and work through the chair of the HAHD.
yeah, we're-
Right, totally.
Yeah,
The chair
yeah.
there.
So
Good call.
I think it's a great project, and I would, anything that will help garner support for it, I'd like to offer assistance, and I will talk to Jay.
And Russ.
And Russ.
All
okay,
right.
so that's 2-5, 2-6, 2-7.
So Jay had said previously that he was planning to introduce the article and then quickly give way to Mike Toomey, the chair
Right.
of the Town Hall Building Committee,
For 2-7 you're talking?
for 2-7.
2-6 and 2-7.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, correct.
But Jay wouldn't necessarily have to speak to 2-6, to 2-7.
Right.
If he presented by, it probably should be presented by the Board of Selectmen.
For which one?
2-7.
2-7, yeah.
are you gonna have, I mean, I assume these would be, the presentations would be for both at the same time?
Right.
correct?
Well, I think the plan, unless people want to, this is what we're here for, is to decide. One of the things that have been proposed by the Town Hall Building Committee and the Community Preservation Committee was that we could open the discussion about the options and everything else under 2-6, have the presentation by Mike Toomey and the Town Hall Building Committee, have both sides, all of the information shared with the town meeting, have the vote on 2-6, and then on 2-7, you might not need to do the whole presentation again. There might be one or two lingering questions, but the 2-7 isn't a larger number ask, so, and it comes from general fund as opposed, well, it comes from general fund borrowing, but it comes from the general fund as opposed to the Community Preservation Committee. So that should be proposed or recommended from the Board of Selectmen, which initiated the article, and then,
So how are?
and a disagreement, so. just
So
ask-
how are you seeing the vote being done on whether it's A or B?
Well, we went over this last time, but you can't, we're not voting whether it's A or B. We're proposing A.
Somebody can make a
Somebody on the
motion.
floor can
Okay,
make a
so-
motion.
And that would probably, the likely place for that to happen would be in 2-7, because the ask in 2-6 is the same either way.
Okay.
Right.
Just the.
Well,
the
That's where you're
amount
gonna
of
get,
the-
that's where you're gonna be a
amount of
challenge, when someone
That's
makes a
one question
motion.
I had, so in
Oh, that
reading,
makes
Amend the
sense.
motion, yeah.
and reading the minutes from the last meeting, is, so there's a number for
Yeah.
option A.
And I'll have both those numbers
2.7.
for you very clearly.
Is there a different number for B?
Yeah, it's roughly $135,000 more, but in borrowing, but
Right.
the.
Total cost
The
is-
total cost is like $12,000 difference or something. So I'll have all the numbers for you for 2.7, probably by the end of this week. Marissa wasn't in today, but I'll probably have them for you this week to go over them with you. The option B becomes if somebody stands up and moves to make that motion, they need to amend the financial request as well.
Right, and Mike will hopefully in his presentation give the totals for
Yeah,
both versions.
Mike is going
of-
to present both A and B, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's,
But we're
and the
only-
town hall building committee sheet already includes what the total
That's
cost
where
are
I'll
and
earn my
the
princely
AB
salary.
differences.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So you don't think Mike should do it? You think it should be a selectman?
I think for option 2.7, I think it should be the selectmen make the motion on the article.
It's almost the
and then
same presentation, so maybe if we make
You
a
don't really
small
need to make much of a
statement, but
presentation, yeah, small statement, this is,
Right.
we're making a
I-
recommendation here, the
I-
vote, the motion is for,
Right.
it would be to fund option A,
Mm-hmm.
and, have a little, open up, have a motion that opens the discourse,
Yeah,
and then if it goes,
yeah. I would
somebody wants to stand up and amend the motion for option B, they have to amend it for a financial amount as well.
I would volunteer one of the people on that committee on this board to that motion.
That would be Bill or
Yeah,
Jeff.
yeah. Wow,
I mean,
lucky
I
us.
want to work with the committee itself to say, make sure they're comfortable with it, but, because they're going to have quite a presentation putting together. I don't want to sort of either contradict or
Right.
Or
We
be
want to make it
redundant.
as
Yeah.
non-confusing
But I have
as
no
we can.
problem speaking to it if I need to,
All right,
so we can
Okay. We'll work
be
with
down and then we can always cross me out
you.
later.
All right.
All right,
okay.
so Bill on 2.7.
Bill on 2.7.
And if I may,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, this is one of the items where FinCom would like to reserve an opportunity
Yep.
for a short comment.
When is the, your, let's see, how'd you phrase it? You said your book of recommendations, when will that be?
That's out, it's at the printers, it's gonna be mailed out.
It's coming
It is, okay.
with this in the mail.
Can I get it emailed to me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, can you
Be
email
helpful
it
to see
to
it,
all of
yeah.
us if it's already in?
Yeah.
That'd be good to have.
And Joe, be helpful, if I'm gonna speak, be helpful to, do some quick research on, because I was just gonna do this myself, but maybe, is what other towns, a lot of towns have done renovations of their town hall recently. It'd be good to know how many that has been. So between, I know, Essex, I know
Right,
Wenham.
Essex, Topsfield,
Wenham.
Wenham,
Yeah.
fairly in the,
Right.
whatever, not so distant past.
Same, similar. I think it's-
Topsfield,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want just towns near us, or
Yeah, yeah,
towns in
just,
general, towns
just so
near
I can
us?
sort of say, we're not just like trying to do something unusual. We're sort of behind the times of what. I know we spent a lot of time focusing on our project, but it'd be good people to know that.
Yep.
It's always good to sort of compare it to other communities.
Right, we're unique, but not too unique.
Yeah. It's been done before. We're not the first ones to renovate town hall.
Right, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
And just so that for everybody's edification, I know that we did confirm with both town council and with bond council that given that this is actually a request for bonding, it'd be all right for an amendment that would increase the financial output because it's a negligible amount. So bond council already weighed in on it and said that they felt that was
That's okay.
fine.
Okay, good.
So they asked me to inform the moderator.
Now, what vote do you need for this?
This is a 2/3.
It's a motion to borrow, so it's a 2/3 vote.
What about to amend it, the motion?
Majority vote to
Okay.
amend it. 2/3 to approve the amendment.
Okay.
If the amendment fails, then you can go back and vote on the original motion as well.
Yeah.
But
If
you
they-
need 2/3 on that. So, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, 2-8, public safety building garage door.
I would think consent agenda. We gotta
Yes.
we gotta get more than one item on the
Yeah.
consent
Yeah.
agenda, otherwise there's no sense in having it.
Or otherwise, it's not a consent agenda. I say consent on that one
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
All right,
Can I just somewhat back up, but maybe not back up? Are there any of these other votes in here that are anything special besides like the prior year bills that are 9/10 or 2/3 other than majority?
No, I don't believe so.
They're all just majority, right?
Just majority.
All right.
Article 2-4, I believe that bond council suggested that that was a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
Oh.
I have corresponded with Maria to discuss whether that's actually the case. If
Can
my
I-
opinion, at least right now, that's it. for majority.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I hate to, but can you come up to the podium since we're on TV and folks at home aren't, you're not mic'd? Thank you very much. Sorry to
Sorry.
say it,
Thank you.
repeat it, but.
I just wanted to point out that 2-4, which is an authorization, essentially a reauthorization of a prior borrowing, so it's more of a confirmatory vote. Bond council had sent it back with a recommendation for a 2/3 vote. I don't believe that that's required, so I've emailed the finance director so that we can talk further about that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. We're getting there.
Getting there, yeah, where are we now?
2-9.
2-9,
Another big number.
That's another big number, so.
yeah.
Tim Olson in town council again? Is that, 2-9, I'm making a recommendation that we rely on our DBW director to,
And if he doesn't want, I'll do it. I did the last one, similar to it, so.
This would be a 2/3.
2/3, yeah. No, that's okay.
Okay. So that's Tim. All right, 3-1, amendment to compensation tables.
I think this could go in the consent agenda. This is not really anything.
I agree.
There's no significant changes here. It has no tax rate impact, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, 3-2.
Can that go on the consent agenda as well?
3-2?
The question about that is just if folks want to be able to explain why we're taking this vote to town meeting. It's the type of thing we could put it in the consent agenda, and somebody may ask to hold it.
Hold it.
David, do you have an opinion? Mr. Moderator, do you have an opinion? Bill?
Yeah, I think I'd put it in the consent agenda and expect it to be held.
And FinCom would like an opportunity to comment. This does confirm a prior town meeting vote,
Vote,
which
right.
was
Can
perceived as defeated.
comment now or comment at the,
I just did now.
okay, so,
And I'm reserving.
Right to do so.
okay, well, then I guess you'd have to hold it, because I don't think,
Or not put it in the consent agenda.
Not put it on the
Yeah.
consent agenda? All right. Don't put
I'm
it-
sorry.
Or just not
Not
put it
put
in
it
the
in.
consent
Well, that's the,
agenda.
I mean, if the FinCom feels compelled to
Yeah.
mention it, then,
Yeah.
then let's leave it out, because,
Makes sense.
Okay.
Works for me.
So then, David, do you want to present that one?
Whatever your.
I would say we probably would.
I was gonna say, this was
We should.
something that was initiated by the Board of Selectmen in response to the town
Right.
meetings request, vote in 2018, right? So I think the Board of Selectmen should present and
Yeah.
move the question, and then allow FinCom to make their comment as well. I think it'll probably get passed pretty quickly, but.
I can speak to this one.
Okay.
And then this last one, Jeff, if I may jump ahead of you here, 3-3. We had talked last time about putting it in the consent agenda, but I had mentioned maybe keeping it out so that we could get a little more public awareness of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think it's a really nice gesture, and I think it should be, just because it shows community concern for our seniors, and I think. it
So
would be
Rosie,
good.
you'll present it?
Sure. I
Motion?
mean, it's, sure, yeah, I
Perfect.
mean, okay, super. I'd love to. Thank you.
All right, so Rosie?
Okay. Good.
Council, is there anything else you need from us to help you with the agenda, or with the script, I mean?
No, I think I'll be fine. I'll certainly give you a call if I.
My phone is always on.
And then, Bill, how are you as far as presentations and all that kind of stuff? Have people brought you anything yet as,
excuse me, no. I mean, as you get them, or as they come over the transom, I'd like to get them forwarded to
can we,
Nothing's come forward to me.
I was gonna say, can we nudge some people with a date to get them to Mr. Bowler by?
Well, so the
What's your-
question was, do the selectmen and the FinCom plan on making state, sort of general statements like they do at ATM? I mean, or,
Are you gonna do
I know
much
that
of
last
a-
year you did, but there was a lot going on last year. I was, I think, 4 weeks on the job,
Yeah.
and I think there were a lot of different things that the board wanted to kind of address at that time. I don't know if you feel like you need to do that this year. It's kind of up to you.
Mr. Chair, your floor.
Yeah, I don't have any strong opinions on it, to be honest with you. I mean, if you feel like it would be a good idea to
You
update
can give a little
people.
highlight reel on where we've come since ATM. I don't think it'll be that lengthy. We don't have
Right.
much controversy going on, but
Okay. Yeah,
might be worth it. I think that people kind of expect something.
okay.
but again, I mean, and it's just me, keep it, crisp
brief,
and
right.
short.
We'll put the timer on for you,
I
Jeff.
do,
Timer on for it.
I do recall town meetings in the past where, I mean, I think there was a feeling, well, this is the one time when we've got a big
Right.
crowd. So people gave very good presentations, and let's just say they weren't universally well received. So,
I'll be brief, believe me. I don't like to talk.
We'll
so,
try the timer out on you. You're the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah,
I think I would like to.
same opportunity.
sure.
Yep.
We'll, as soon as you're done, Mr. Moderator, you introduce Mr. Hubbard, we'll just start that clock running for everybody.
The only thing comes up is the handouts. People bring handouts and put them on the table up front. I think the moderator in previous years has been able to approve those ahead of time. So you haven't approved them ahead of time, they usually aren't allowed to put them on the table. So I think you should set a policy for that as well.
Should put out a comment on
Yeah.
how far, so you need to have by next week in order to be able to review them and approve them for dissemination
Yeah.
at town meeting. How about, I give, for the Board of Selectmen, how about the Board of Selectmen direct me to give people the opportunity to submit things until next Monday evening?
I
Oh, no, wait,
move-
no, I'm sorry,
Tuesday.
next Tuesday
I
morning.
say
Monday is
Tuesday.
a holiday.
Holiday.
Monday is a holiday, so next Tuesday evening, and then I'll make sure anything I get, as I get it, I send it to you, Mr. Bowe.
Okay.
I make a motion that we, what am I looking to say here? Say that again, Joe, and I'll recap it.
Ask all organizations, boards, and committees that have information to share at town meeting to submit it for approval by the town moderator by next Tuesday, October 15th. How's that for making it up on the top
Yeah.
of my head?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And we have a kind of a policy that previous moderator Jen Scuteri put together for kind of turning in some of the format of some of those documents and stuff like that. And I don't know if we had any kind of policy from the moderator or us as far as the handouts that Bill was speaking about, getting them approved for the meeting or anything like that. Do we have anything like that? Have you seen anything like that, Bill?
As opposed to handouts on the table.
Right, typically we have the handouts on the table that are kind of town approved, like they're the warrant and the appendixes and stuff like that, but then sometimes we get groups that are in opposition or favor of some issue, and
Well,
sometimes we haven't.
My recollection
Let's
is,
talk
and I
about
don't
it.
know,
Let's
this is a jurisdictional issue, that's somewhat maybe in the town clerk's.
I've been told before it's
People
town
have been, it's like they're
moderator.
outside.
And maybe
I mean,
council
guess-
can help us with
I guess I would
something like
say that
this.
if they're outside,
Right.
then, then it's not in my jurisdiction or,
Right, because I think some of it's similar to like if you're gathering signatures for some kind of a,
Yeah, that can't happen inside
They
town.
shouldn't
right, it
be
has to be a
That-
certain
that has to be
distance from
I believe
everything,
it-
right?
Well, we'll ask town council. I think it's 200 feet away from the entrance, but we'll leave that
Thank
up
you.
to...
Mr. Chair, typically, the position that we take is that the moderator is responsible for the meeting room and the area immediately surrounding that. And in fact, I made a note to myself, approve materials for disclosure by others, meaning not town, because I think probably you'd want to have one area for the town approved and just a sign or something saying other materials left here are not town endorsed. Not that they're town opposed either, but, and we can come up with an appropriate statement for that. In terms of signature gathering petitions, most moderators that I know do require people to be outside
Yeah.
of town hall. a lot of times that 150-foot rule, which is applicable for elections, is harder to enforce at town meetings because there's really nowhere to be. Especially it's, well, you guys have daytime meetings, but, so you may want to think if there's an area to kind of carry forward the reason behind that statute, which is to allow people to walk into the town meeting or the town election without feeling assaulted by other people's ideas. And so if you perhaps, if you expect people to come, you could set them up a little bit further away from the door. Something like that would be appropriate. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Okay.
And we don't see any need to have any meeting right before, correct? We're all good, right?
No, the only thing I was concerned about was registrars,
Yeah.
and we're all clear
We
on
just
registrars.
approved them, so we're
we
good.
should be good.
Okay.
So, Bill, you're saying you still need people to chat with you about being a counter, or what's the?
Teller.
Tellers.
Counter, teller.
I mean, if someone wants to be a teller,
Okay.
they should contact me.
Okay, all right.
I've started reaching out to people to, it's no heavy lifting, but
Right. But
there's no
it's important.
stipend either.
Okay.
so.
Okay.
But we will have Danish and coffee.
There you go.
Right.
And our gratitude.
And breakfast was really good last year. I vote we have that
We have-
same crowd back.
We have enlisted the services of the Essex North Shore Boat Technical School again. They'll be
Wow.
providing the food
Good, they're
for
gonna be
us.
able to do it even with their,
Yeah,
their
it was
event going on.
funny. Nobody at Essex Aggie told the folks in catering that they had a big event that they had to plan for until we called to confirm for the third time, and they're like, "Oh, we just found out we got this going on." I'm like, that's why we kept calling you and asking.
We kept calling.
They said they can make it. We just have to pick up the stuff the night before.
Oh, that's
So,
easy enough.
we're going to
Good.
take care of that.
Joe, that's your job.
Somebody else has already volunteered to do it. I'm afraid the bake goods going home to my house might not make it.
right.
Let's let somebody else do that. It'll be more responsible.
I couldn't do it either.
Anything else, Mr. Moderator, as far as our
I
end,
don't
or?
believe so.
Okay. Great.
Hey, good luck, Bill.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for being here,
David,
Bill.
Lauren, thank you very much all.
Thank you, Lauren.
Appreciate your help.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
Yeah, take care.
You did.
Okay, we are
Are we back to now?
up to update on the Amoresco project.
So in your packets, you have a package that looks like this, a little letter at the beginning, and then followed by presentation that, sorry for the lateness of it, I've been trying to get Amoresco to send me this. They had sent us a version of this back in mid-August, which they said was mostly for internal use. They didn't really want it to be shared publicly, blah, 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 blah. I kept telling them if they didn't get me something by today, they were gonna get the other one shared. So this one is an update. It will give you some information. We'll post this online tomorrow. It'll give you some information as an update to the project, but essentially the letter up front tells you the main thing that you need to know, which is that Amoresco's work on the solar field is complete and has been signed off on by the Hamilton wiring inspector in early September. National Grid is still working through their permitting process, and Amoresco is assisting them. As you know, the National Grid poles were approved by you and by the Manchester Board of Selectmen. For the ones that are in Manchester, they are still going through the Manchester Conservation Commission process. They're going before the Manchester Conservation Commission on October 15th. The one unfortunate part is that they're not anticipating N-Grid construction to be complete until the spring, March. So once the N-Grid construction is complete, the entire project goes live, and, we start kind of earning all that great solar energy that we're producing out there, and the credit for it for our town. But it'll be until March, because we're past, by the time they get through Concom and the appeals process on the permits and everything else,
With that window and everything,
you'll
the
be in the
winter.
middle of the winter, and they won't be digging holes for poles in that time. So
Bummer.
that is unfortunate. It does not seem like National Grid has been particularly onerous in its pursuit of getting their work done, as has been reported in other cases. This is just a process situation. So the report does have some great pictures of the solar field and how it
It
looks.
Yeah.
My assumption is they flew a drone to get these pictures, because they're really quite fascinating. They're great. So it's coming. It's built. It just needs to be plugged in.
It's close to fruition. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just needs to be plugged in. Unfortunately, we're not quite there.
Can we post this?
I'm going to post it.
Perfect.
Essentially, once they sent it to me, it became a public record, so
Yep.
even if they,
Even if they didn't want it, we could
even if they
post
didn't
it
want it,
anyway.
I have an obligation to share it if people ask for
Right.
it, so.
Okay. All right, so March it is.
Actually it is.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Do we know, is there any revenue numbers in this, or is this mostly just project overview,
This is,
elevation?
no, this is just an update on where the project is at this
Where it
point.
is.
The revenue numbers wouldn't have changed from what they promised us in getting it permitted and the lease signed and everything else, so
Right.
I can try to pull that stuff together and get it back out to you.
Yeah, I think when we post this, it would be nice to post something about the potential revenue. I know it will fluctuate a bit with the way they buy back is and everything like that, but it'd be nice to get kind of a ballpark of what we're
Yep.
gonna receive in revenues, since this has been years and years in the making now.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of pictures.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joe. Update on MVP workshop.
I kind of did that during my town manager report. The update is that they're planning and they're going to have the workshop. I'll say it again because I do want people to know that it's something that would be open to the public. We'll be doing it at the Hamilton Wenham Library from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursday, October 24th. Planning committee includes Ann Giroux, our public safety professionals, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which is our certified MVP planner, myself, loosely. Honestly, Patrick Reffett had been doing a lot of the work with Tim Olson, but that committee's been meeting, and they're pretty, IRWA has participated in the planning and will be an active participant in the workshop as well, so.
What type of, in terms of residents and getting people involved and this, what type of people would be interested?
So, I mean, anybody can participate. I know when I ran the project in Winthrop, and I hate to keep going back to that, but I did it in Winthrop, we got about 70 people to show up. That included most of the members of the town council at the time, and residents, as well as, stakeholder groups that we identified. So in this process, it's a smaller town. It's a little bit, we had MWRA involved, we had DCR involved, because both those entities had land in Winthrop.